Hello world, I'm here today with another bunch of record pressings to analyse. A few days ago, I'll put a link in the description, but I did a needle drop of a song by Go West called We Close Our Eyes, which is on the Chrysalis label. And I'll show you the album from whence it comes. So this album is just called Go West. Needs a darn good clean. This is the original inner sleeve I got it in. And the paper one seems to be long gone. But Chrysalis, other famous Chrysalis people include Blondie, Boomtown Rats. These are on Mercury. So you can see the Mercury label at the top there above the Boomtown Rats. Another Mercury. This is Songs from the Big Chair. This is another Tears for Fears, The Seeds of Love. This is on Fontana. This is another Mercury, Tears for Fears, The Hurting. So this is Tears for Fears' main three albums, basically. This is a Blancmange. Oh, Mange 2. I got this out the other week because of poor Stephen Luscombe, who was the keyboard player side of Blancmange. They were Neil Arthur and Stephen Luscombe. This is London Records. It also boasts of being a direct metal master. The same direct metal master, by the way, that the Beatles vinyls were released in the 80s when they brought out the CDs for the first time, the George Martin masters. So I don't really know what DMM really means. It just says that it's manufactured with Teldec DMM technology. Direct metal mastering sets new standards for a sound of superior purity, transparency and dynamics. No annoying echoes and surface noise disturb the listening pleasure. Roxy Music, The Atlantic Years, on Atlantic. And as a compare contrast, seeing as how I talked about it last time with the Warner pressings, I've got 1999 here as well. And I'm going to show you a waveform drop of both the title track from here, 1999, and We Close Our Eyes, both of which are side openers, so they'll be at their best. What do all of those records there have in common? Well, they're all part of the PolyGram stable of record companies. Now, they go back to the early 60s with the formation of the Philips gramophone label, Philips being that electronics brand. In order to own music, in quotes, what a good company needs to do is have a roster of performers and artists. They need to own the studio where everything's recorded. They need to own the means of reproduction as well. That is the radios, the record players. So there are Philips radios, record players, tape machines. In fact, definitely tape machines, because Philips invented the cassette, and you need to own the means of distribution. So Philips owned a multitude of labels, including Deutsche Grammophon, Decca, Phonogram, and in the 70s, the very early 70s, they merged with a company called Siemens, Siemens. And Siemens' main interest was the Polydor label. And when the two came together, they took the poly out of Polydor and the gram out of Phonogram. So you've got PolyGram, and this was this huge distribution label that didn't only distribute the labels that I've just spoken about, but also a lot more, especially independent labels as well. If you're an indie label and you just needed somebody to press your records and get them out to the public, you might go to PolyGram just for distribution. They became the biggest record distribution label in the world up until they were bought in 1990 by a company called Seagram. So PolyGram, as the world's largest conglomerate of record companies, lasted from 1972 all the way up until 1990. They were bought by an alcoholic distillery firm called Seagram. Don't know how a sort of alcohol manufacturing thing would diversify into music, but they did. But this Seagram thing obviously couldn't cope with it, because by 1998, 1999, the whole lot had been bought by Universal. And PolyGram as a company didn't exist, but its labels exist, I suppose, in name only, because essentially it's all Universal. And even Warner's, which were Universal's main rival, now there are sort of subsidiaries of Universal that own bits of Warner's. So now, for example, EMI are a subsidiary of Universal, but EMI manage bits of the Warner empire, the record label formerly known as Warner's. It all gets very spaghetti-ish. To keep things simple now, there really is only one entertainment company, I suppose, in the world now, and it's Universal, whether it's Universal Pictures or Universal Music. So there we go. What do these have in common sonically then? What makes them different from Warner's pressings? Well, I've got a Prince Go West comparison to show you. So what we have here is Go West, We Close Our Eyes, on the Chrysalis label, PolyGram, and Prince, which I discussed at length in the last video I made about Warner pressings, 1999. Both of these have just been copied as is from whatever was on the record, and this representation here represents nothing at all being done to them. Ignore this third track here, it's just a default amp that opens in Logic and it's turned off, so it's not doing anything. So just to quickly interpret the waveform for you, the average loudness of the song is represented by the middle line. So as you can see, it starts out as a really thin little white line here. That is the needle playing the introductory blank groove. So the first time we actually get some sounds then, it's quite quiet, but we've got some very loud drum hits, which are represented by the tall lines here. And if a line goes up to the top and touches the bottom, that is a full thwack. It's been hit and been recorded as loud as it will go without distorting, what we sometimes call the red line or the 0 decibels point. And then the rest of the sound has just been averaged out. So round about here, where my cursor's moving, it's the synthesizer part. Go and listen to it. I've uploaded it, but I'm not going to play any on here. Otherwise, I will lose my monetization, and Warner's will kill you if they so much as think, and Prince are Warner's. So, they will kill you if you upload anything of theirs without permission. So, be warned. Be warned. So round about here we have some vocals coming in, and around about what's bar 33, bar 34 here, this is the chorus. You can't tell what's happening down here. For a start, the average sound level is so compressed. Look how much room, how much bandwidth that group has got to breathe in, that music group, so that the sounds can be separated out. This is a stereo track, by the way. It's combined left and right. So on the sort of top half of the middle line, here's middle line, top half there, that's the left channel, I believe, and the bottom one is the right channel. So anything going beneath the center line is the right channel. And can you see, it's different. It's different. It is kind of on Prince, but this is roughly around about here, where 19-ish. This is where the groove gets going, but it's just simple Linn drum hits and the band has been compressed to within an inch of its life, with the only thing that's being allowed to escape that compressor a little bit is the Lindrum, to give the music a little bit of momentum. But because it's all so monotonous and all on one level anyway, it doesn't do that song any justice, or that performance of that song. Prince's vocals are absolutely brilliant. There's some great bass guitar playing, but you just can't hear it very well. It's buried so deep down, and I'd say, Prince, as a song, 1999, is a better song than Go West. We have feeble pressing, which is the mix, not even so much as the cut on the record, because it would be exactly the same whether you played it on a CD or cassette or a digital download. So having said that about those two particular songs, it is only two songs, but as discussed previously in the Warner's video, they all pretty much sound like that, and these Polydor pressings all pretty much have that sonic signature of the Go West song. This in particular is an absolutely beautiful pressing, and I say pressing, and do I really mean pressing? Because then that automatically assumes vinyl, but I mean mastering. It's the mastering that's cut onto a record or duplicated onto a CD or cassette, and it's the mastering that has been done so well on these albums. Listening to a song like Don't Tell Me, the tabla, as performed by a musician called Pandit Dinesh, is wonderfully well defined. The rhythm is etched into the groove. You can hear that he doesn't just play one little line of tablas, there are several going, and I even detect a synth version of a tabla being sequenced as well in certain places. Another song where that's pretty evident is the song Murder. Because I've mentioned them, Tears for Fears, Mother's Talk. Yeah, it's got loads of shouty drums on it, but it's still got a solid bass floor. It doesn't scream and shout at you. And actually, it starts and stops on a pinhead. Don't you feel your luck is changing? When everything starts to happen and you listen to what's going on there and how you're kind of jerked around by the mix, it starts and stops on a pinhead, as I've said. And when this actually finishes, certain very early pressings have it fading out right into the run-out groove. You'd be surprised how long that fade out is. And just to come back to this album here, We Close Our Eyes, you can hear on the needle drop how snappy those drums are, how open it is, how it all breathes, how you can hear into the acoustic, into the room that it was acoustic, and all the different types of reverb that we use, which should just get squashed out of Warner pressings. Call Me has got a very insistent bass line, and it's just so full and textured. It's not going to boom away. I don't think that the be all and end all of a good hi-fi system is a bass that booms, but you want it to be there. You want it to ground the music and to move it along and add texture, and it just does so in abundance here. It's nothing that's going to set the world on fire, but it is a very lively, engaging mix, come mastering, come pressing. The final track that I want to talk about, in fact, really the final album I want to talk about here, or apart from the fact that this is great. But I listened to side 2 of this before I made the video, and Banana Republic is absolutely fantastic. And something about these phonogram pressings that is a clear giveaway that you're not listening to Warner's is that where instruments are given their own sound spacing, so for example a sax solo, or on Banana Republic here it's a reggae bass, a dub bass, and again you can hear that echo brilliantly. You can see how far back in the mix the drums are. I think it's the snares that are way over in the right hand corner, for example. But that bass, you might expect that it's gonna be quite full on at the beginning, because it is. But when the rest of the mix comes in, of course, you don't want that bass to be absolutely dominating and drowning out the rest of the instruments. But on the other hand, you don't want it to disappear. And the gradation between bass being played solo, bass where a few other instruments are joining in, and then when the vocals and the main mix comes in, is very, very slight. So the bass levels are exactly the same. On Please Don't Go Here, there's quite a prominent saxophone. It's a bit of an irritating song, this. I don't think it's particularly well recorded at all. But in terms of its overall characteristic, there's a sax in there. Whether people are singing and the sax is playing at the same time, or whether the sax is solo, it's still there. It's still got the same characteristics. I don't mean it's playing all on a monotonous level. It's not 1999. The sax has got power and dynamism and life about it, but it just doesn't shy away the second that the vocals come in. That's called ducking, by the way, where one instrument ducks and gets out of the way so that another one can take precedence, which is happening all over Warner's pressings, in particular 1999. So world, I'll leave it at that today. I hope you've enjoyed my little foray into PolyGram pressings. Go and find some of your own. I will leave you with a tiny little anecdote though. Part of the PolyGram group, as I might have mentioned, is the Decca label. Decca were very, very famous in the early 1960s, about 1962, so before Philips had merged with Siemens to become PolyGram. A little group managed by a gentleman called Brian Epstein came to visit them and said, do you fancy us auditioning for you, making some demos for you? And Decca took one look at them, said, no thanks, guitar groups are on the way out, they're not the next big thing, blah, 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 blah. And of course, within a couple of months, they'd organised this audition with EMI in September 1962, and the rest was history. Decca were kicking themselves. I think a journalist at the time said to the Beatles, I hear that you auditioned for Decca and they turned you down. I bet they're kicking themselves now, aren't they? And John Lennon said, I hope they kick themselves to death. Can all make mistakes. So Decca instead signed up the Rolling Stones. But anyway, I'll leave it there, folks. Remember to like. How did that happen? Subscribe. Share if you dare. If you want to, leave a super thanks. And I will see you in the next video. Ta-ra!